Hey guys, Elliot here. Welcome to my channel for another true crime deep dive. I chose a very recent ongoing case which happened just a few weeks ago. This is the case of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer. On Sunday, December the 14th, 2025, a frantic 911 call was dispatched. The caller was 28-year-old Romy Reiner. The Los Angeles Fire Department was called to a home at roughly 3:30 p.m. to provide a medical aid. Two dead bodies were found in the bedroom of their Los Angeles mansion in Brentwood. They were soon identified as 78-year-old Rob Reiner and his wife, 70-year-old Michelle Singer. Unfortunately for them, they were beyond saving. Sticking to the New York Times report, Romy Reiner dialed 911 because she had been previously contacted by a massage therapist who couldn't reach her parents. They had an appointment scheduled, so Romy headed to their mansion, making the worst discovery a daughter should ever make, finding her father's body. She then fled away from the scene, shocked. I'm sure many of you already heard of Rob Reiner. He was one of the most prolific directors in Hollywood, being both a filmmaker and actor in the industry, and his work included some of the most memorable movies in the 1980s and 1990s. Some examples: This is Spinal Tap, 1984, Stand By Me, 1986, which I had the chance to watch twice, and heartbreaking and impressive movie. The Princess Bride, 1987, When Harry Met Sally, 1989, Misery, 1990, and A Few Good Men in 1992. Michele Reiner was a photographer, then turned actor and producer. She worked with her husband to produce this year's sequel, This is Spinal Tap 2. The end continues. Reiner made his directional film debut back in 1984 with This is Spinal Tap. The couple collaborated at different times over the years. For instance, Michelle served as a producer on movies that her husband made, like in the political drama Shock and Awe. Among the movies he made, Stand By Me will forever occupy an important place in my heart. Rob Reiner was very proud of that movie, considering it to be the first thing he made outside of his father's shadow. In a 2018 interview with The Guardian, he said, Spinal Tap was satire, and I love satire, but that was something my father had done. And The Sure Thing was a romantic comedy, and he had done those. So Stand By Me was the first thing I did that was purely an extension of myself, and that meant a lot to me. Over his long career, he gained 4 Golden Globes nominations for Best Director and 3 Directors Guild of America awards. A heart-wrenching crime which shook the country, a case which is still on everyone's mouth. Who would kill such well-known and precious members of the film industry in Hollywood? And most importantly, for which reason? Some influential members of the Hollywood community expressed their thoughts on social media publicly. For instance, Jane Fonda wrote on a December the 15th Instagram post, Rob and Michele Reiner were wonderful, caring, smart, funny, generous people, always coming up with ideas for how to make the world better, kinder. They had been helping me launch the comedy for the First Man Band. I saw them the night before last, looking healthy and happy. I'm reeling with grief, stunned. For those wondering, the First Man Band cited by Fonda is a group which aims to spread freedom of expression from the censorship of the government. Even President Donald Trump exposed his thoughts on true details, but in contrasting terms. Here's what he said. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away, together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed old goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michele rest in peace. Yeah, your intuition is right. Rob Reiner and President Trump were definitely not on good terms. I don't want to bother you with political related stuff, but Reiner was a huge political activist and critic of USA President Donald Trump. He co-founded the American Foundation for Equal Rights. Former President Barack Obama released a statement on X, saying, Michelle and I are broken by the tragic passing of Rob Reiner and his beloved wife Michelle. Rob's achievements in film and television gave us some of our most cherished stories on screen. But beneath all the stories he produced was a deep belief in the goodness of people and a lifelong commitment to putting that belief into action. Together, he and his wife lived lives defined by purpose. They will be remembered for the values they championed and the countless people they inspired. We send our deepest condolences to all who loved them. This long caption aligns with the way the Reiners were described by others. People who wanted to make a difference in this world and became inspirational icons for others, even for younger generations. Rob Reiner's father, Carl Reiner, was a famous comedian who passed away in 2020, while his mom, Estelle LeBost, was a vibrant actress and singer. In the late 1980s, leaving behind a pair's marriage to actor and director Penny Marshall, Rob was the director of the movie When Harry Met Sally, when his paths crossed Michelle's. The two had tied a knot in 1989. Rob was also the adoptive father of actor Tracy Reiner. The newly married couple welcomed 3 children, Jake, Nick, and Romy. We already mentioned Romy earlier in this episode. She was the one who actually found her dad lifeless. Their parents' shocking death left both Jake and Romy in an unimaginable pain they are experiencing every moment of their day. Rob and Michele were their best friends. The following is what they said. Words cannot even begin to describe the unimaginable pain we are experiencing every moment of the day. The horrific and devastating loss of our parents, Rob and Michele Reiner, is something no one should ever experience. They weren't just our parents, they were our best friends. What about Nick Reiner? Over the years, he has been battling some personal issues in his life. When interviewed by the outlet People, he has spoken up about the beginning of his addiction, which dates back in his teenage years, when he was 15 years old, being taken into a rehab facility. It marked nights spent sleeping outside, experiencing homelessness in many countries, and paying a dozen visits to rehabs over the years. The following is an extract of what Nick said during an older interview. I was homeless in Maine. I was homeless in New Jersey. I was homeless in Texas. I spent nights on the street. I spent weeks on the street. It was not fun. That made me who I am now, having to deal with that stuff. I met crazy great people there, so I was out of my element. In light of this difficult past, the Reiners even made a movie together, a semi-autobiographical movie in 2016, partially inspired by Nick's story, named Being Charlie, which he co-wrote. In this regard, the movie is about a teenager who struggled with addiction. Making this movie together certainly made Rob and Nick move closer. Our relationship is better now than it was, and it's got places to go, said Rob during an interview. Nick Reiner praised his parents for helping him find sobriety. However, he said he felt guilty disappointing his parents and was trying to figure out his own path. Rob, on the other hand, regretted not having valued Nick's voice over the advice of counselors when he was younger. When Nick would tell us that it wasn't working for him, we wouldn't listen. We were desperate, and because the people had diplomas on their wall, we listened to them, and when we should have been listening to our son. That was what Rob said about it. Let's be honest up front, killings are rare in the Brentwood neighborhood. The horrific scene, which took place on December the 14th, 2025, happens to be about a mile from the home where O.J. Simpson's wife, Nicole Brown Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were killed in 1994. The whole neighborhood couldn't believe Rob and Michele had been killed. In a matter of a few hours, it seemed like time froze. Finally, an arrest was made. It didn't take long for police to focus on Nick Reiner after his parents were found fatally stabbed. 6 hours after the horrific discovery of the bodies, 32-year-old Nick Reiner has been identified as a suspect and was arrested on suspicion of murder after being taken into custody. At the time, he had been living with his parents. As a result of the initial investigation, it was determined that the Reiners were the victims of homicide. The investigation further revealed that Nick Reiner, the 32-year-old son of Robert and Michele Reiner, was responsible for their deaths. Nick was located by police close to the campus of the University of Southern California. Surveillance footage caught the young man roughly an hour before the arrest at a narco gas station and convenience store near Exposition Park in Los Angeles. Police Chief Jim McDonnell said Nick Reiner is being held without bail, and he added that the department's robbery and homicide division is dealing with investigation. By outward appearances, it seems like they had a good and somewhat loving relationship. Rob Reiner doesn't need a long and captivating introduction, but he was the son of the comic actor Carl Reiner and singer Stanley Bost. He was born in the Bronx, New York, in 1947. His career had begun in the 1960s as an actor in the sitcom All in the Family, which guaranteed him 2 of 5 Emmy nominations for his performance, and was also nominated for 5 Golden Globes in the role. As always, let's backtrack a little and lay out a timeline into what had occurred the day prior, on Saturday night, December the 13th, 2025, when a Christmas holiday party was held by Conan O'Brien. It was an annual type of party, where friends along with notorious celebrities would join, and, among them, there were the Reiners, Rob, Michele, and their son Nick. What is known at this point is that during the party, Nick got into a bad argument with his parents, and it was so brutal that Rob and Michele were forced to leave at a certain point. Rumor has it he was acting weird at the party, freaking everyone out and making odd questions. Less than 24 hours later, Rob and Michele were found dead. Recently, it seems like things have kind of been going sour between them. In fact, the couple attempted to help Nick in several ways, but they were dealing with some issues. Reiner's mom had become increasingly concerned about his mental health in recent weeks, said a family friend. Closest friends and loved ones of the Reiners were devastated to acknowledge what had occurred to them. It was hard for people to rationalize and digest such gruesome news. This unfair killing has definitely left a scar among many celebrities and stars of Hollywood as well. I feel like a parent has passed. He was a special human being, a kind soul, said Jerry O'Connell, who had co-starred in the 1986 movie Stand By Me. On December the 16th, Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan Hochman revealed the charges Nick will deal with: 2 counts of first-degree murder with a special circumstance of multiple murders, as well as the special allegation he made of the weapon used as a knife, described as dangerous and deadly. He was expected to make his appearance in court in Los Angeles on Wednesday, December the 17th. Nick was able to stay hidden from view up to the end of the hearing. He was wearing a suicide prevention vest. As far as his interaction during the hearing, Reiner only spoke once, saying, "Yes, Your Honor," to reply to a question made by the judge who asked if he understood his right to a speedy trial process. He still has to enter a plea with his upcoming arraignment scheduled on January 7, 2026, a decision which both found the prosecution and Nick Reiner's attorney, Alan Jackson, on board. Authorities have been tight-lipped about a plausible motive behind the killings. Something worth mentioning here is that the prosecutors assigned to the case against Nick Reiner, Hebby Bellion and Jonathan Chang, have already covered complex homicide cases which captivated heavy attention from the media. For instance, Mr. Billion worked tirelessly to inhibit the resentencing of the Menendez brothers, Lyle and Eric, who killed their parents in 1989. As said previously, Nick's relationship with his parents had been navigating tough times lately. Rob and Michele tried to help him in several ways. They just wanted to provide support, but also to watch him make wiser decisions, if we can say so. Either giving him space or keeping him close didn't seem to be helpful strategies. As soon as Rob got wind of the fact his son started experiencing drugs when still a teenager, he just overreacted. Nick was sent to a specific treatment center, a decision that Nick didn't completely digest back then, and even the Reiners regretted, but it seems like over time some sort of balance was found, despite the ups and downs. On December the 15th, 2025, the day following the killings, Michelle Obama made her appearance on a show named Jimmy Kimmel Live and expressed her thoughts about it. We have known them for many, many years, and we were supposed to be seeing them that night. The Reiners were supposed to meet Barack and Michelle Obama that same day they were found dead, on December the 13th. This specific detail sends chills down to my spine. What are your opinions, guys? Recently, on December the 23rd, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner has released reports stating the cause of death of the Reiners. Starting from the date of their death, which had been a little controversial, is listed as Sunday, December the 13th. The cause of death was listed as multiple sharp force injuries caused with a knife by another, and the manner of death was stated as homicide. The couple died just minutes after sustaining knife wound injuries. They were found in the master bedroom area of their home. In addition to that, in the death certificate released by the medical examiner, it is reported that Rob and Michele has since been cremated. Back to Nick Reiner, just hours before his arrest, he checked into a luxury hotel, the Pierside Santa Monica, and this has become an important spot investigators have been looking at, trying to piece together his whereabouts after the deaths of his parents. According to investigators, though, Reiner might have checked into the hotel sometime after 4 a.m. on Sunday. It's unknown if he used public transportation that day, but given the fact he didn't drive, it makes sense to me that he might have used the subway, because the Pierside Santa Monica Hotel is easily accessible from the Metro Explorer line. In order to locate him, location data from his phone, surveillance cameras, and even geo-tracking were used. It's not unusual for law enforcement to use geo-tracking in such cases, especially in a double homicide. What we know is that he moved around quickly and ended up in Exposition Park, where he was arrested at 9:15 p.m. circa. According to a news conference in late December 2025, Los Angeles Police Department Chief Jim McDonnell said the Reiner was found with good, solid police work and investigative tools. As mentioned previously, Reiner was caught on surveillance. He bought a sports drink with cash at a gas station in Los Angeles at 8:20 p.m. circa. In the video you can see Reiner sporting a red backpack, a black and green jacket with white stripes, and a dark baseball cap. Sticking to a source, an employee at the Arco gas station, it seems like Reiner has spent roughly an hour hanging out in the area where he got arrested at 9:15 p.m. I don't know if he was waiting for somebody, but he spent at least 1 hour just standing there. His words. Many of you might argue that Nick could have been under some type of substance, having dealt with addiction in the past. Well, this case is still very, very active, so obviously new details will come out in the upcoming weeks. But what is known at this stage is that the young man was prescribed medication for schizophrenia sometime before the killing, according to two sources who spoke to the Los Angeles Times. For now, it's unknown the name of the drug and how long he had been prescribed it. NBC News, which has cited three sources, reported that Reiner had been diagnosed with a mental health disorder years ago, and was being treated for a serious psychiatric disorder. The same news outlet reported that medication was changed or adjusted shortly before the deaths of Rob and Michele. A very important piece of this puzzle. This detail has given rise to a complex and substantial legal struggle involving Nick Reiner, prosecutors, and defense attorneys. Alan Jackson, his attorney, defined this laying as a devastating tragedy, warning the public against jumping quickly to conclusions, adding that there are very complex and serious issues that need to be thoroughly but very carefully dealt with and examined and looked at and analyzed. We can say the case is still in its infancy stage, more or less, but Reiner's mental condition and the details of what happened at the Christmas party could be important elements in the case. The change in his medication could have triggered some brain issues which may have made him act in a different way. As of the moment I'm recording this video on January 1st, 2026, very little evidence has been presented against Nick Reiner, including forensic data, videos, and more. In other words, it's still premature to know exactly what will happen, reasoning included. A complete assessment of his mental health will probably take months, and the results of this could influence how both sides proceed and whether prosecutors seek the death penalty. Moreover, according to several defense attorneys, the findings related to this assessment could be the starting point for discussions of a plea deal or the beginning of an insanity defense. Schizophrenia is a lifelong psychotic disorder that affects less than 1% of the United States population and is often marked by impaired cognitive thinking, such as visual hallucinations and thought delusions. If left untreated, schizophrenia can result in outcomes such as substance use, homelessness, social isolation, and even suicide. Now, a question for you guys. Could this be a premeditated murder? Given the fact that Reiner allegedly got into a big fight with his parents at the Conan O'Brien party, chances are, once they made it home, he decided he couldn't handle the situation anymore and killed them, less than 24 hours later. This is just a mere theory. Nick Reiner's attorney will have to assess his client's mental health in order to build strong evidence to support his narrative. For now, Reiner is being held under close supervision inside Twin Towers Correctional Facility, where authorities say he remains on suicide watch following a mental health evaluation. Well, this is the end of this episode, guys. I would be curious to know your personal opinions on this case. There will be plenty of elements to analyze, providing different perspectives, but for now, this is information available to us. See you in the next episode, and until then, stay safe and aware.